It seems like we're always trying to stay a step ahead of all the nasty bugs going around.
Yeah.
Especially with, COVID and the flu and everything else.
Right.
It can be a lot.
It really can.
But today we're diving into something you might not have thought about before.
Okay.
Indoor humidity.
Mm.
And it's something that most of us don't really think about all that much.
Yeah.
But it can actually have a really big impact on how healthy our homes are.
Interesting.
So we're doing a deep dive into this opinion piece today, and it's called Optimizing Indoor Humidity, Preventing the Spread of Corona and Flu.
And that really highlights how humidity can actually have a real impact, I think, on our health and the way that viruses spread.
Right.
It's something that I think is often overlooked,
Yeah.
especially when we're, so focused on ventilating spaces.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a hidden piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
So speaking of puzzles, let's talk about something that we're all pretty familiar with at this point, flu season. Why does it seem to hit so hard in the winter and then kind of fade away in the summer?
Right.
We've heard it all, less sunlight, vitamin D levels, kids are back in school.
All that stuff.
But this article goes into something that's been getting a lot more attention lately, indoor humidity.
And it makes sense when you think about how much our environment actually changes with the seasons.
Totally.
Think about it. When it's freezing outside, we're cranking up the heat inside, right? But that warmth comes at a cost.
Yeah.
Our indoor humidity levels just totally plummet.
Yeah, it's like trading one extreme for another.
Yeah, exactly.
The article gives this really stark example.
Yeah.
Imagine it's 0 degrees Celsius outside.
Oh, wow.
And the relative humidity, that's the RH, it's the amount of moisture in the air,
Right.
compared to how much it can actually hold, is at a decent 60%.
Okay.
So you come inside, you warm things up to a comfy 20 degrees. Certainly, that RH drops to a desert-like 20%.
Wow. So it's like we're living in a desert.
Yeah, basically.
It's a huge shift, and it explains why, our skin feels so dry in the winter.
Yes.
But what's really fascinating here is that it goes way beyond just comfort.
Okay.
Research is showing that when that relative humidity falls below 40%, it creates an environment where viruses can actually spread more easily.
Oh, wow. That's a little unnerving.
It is.
So how does humidity actually affect our body's ability to fight off these bugs?
Well, our nasal passages need moisture to be able to produce mucus,
Okay.
which is our first line of defense against, all these pathogens and stuff.
So when the air is dry, those passages dry out,
Exactly.
making it easier for viruses to kind of take hold.
Exactly. It's like our defenses are weakened
Yeah.
when the air is dry.
Right. Okay. So that's our body. But how does humidity affect the viruses themselves?
Well, it affects how they actually travel through the air.
Okay.
When you cough or sneeze,
Huh?
you expel those little droplets that have the virus in them.
Right.
In dry air, those droplets evaporate very quickly and become smaller particles that can linger in the air for longer and travel farther.
Oh, so it's like they become more potent almost.
In a way, yeah, they can hang around longer and spread more easily.
Wow.
Think of it like a virus trying to survive in a sauna versus a desert. Higher humidity makes it much harder for them to thrive.
So it's like a double whammy. Our defenses are down and the viruses are supercharged.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, so this makes me wonder why we don't hear more about humidity
Right.
in public health recommendations.
It's a really important question.
Yeah.
While early in the pandemic, seasonality wasn't really apparent with COVID, that seems to be changing.
Okay.
The article actually mentions a 2022 study.
Right.
They analyzed data from 121 countries
Wow.
and found a really strong correlation between relative humidity below 40% and increased COVID transmission and severity.
That's pretty convincing.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how we tend to focus so much on masks and ventilation. But humidity seems like it's a key player, too.
Absolutely.
Now, this article goes into some seriously cool science
Yeah.
about how humidity affects those tiny little droplets that we exhale.
Okay.
I'm ready to have my mind blown.
All right, get this. Those droplets naturally contain these tiny but mighty disinfectants
Okay.
called reactive oxygen species.
Reactive oxygen species. What are those?
So think of them as our body's natural sanitizers. These molecules, which include things like hydrogen peroxide
Okay.
and even stronger disinfectants like hydroxyl radicals, exist on the surface of those droplets.
Okay.
And here's the kicker. Higher humidity actually leads to a higher concentration of these disinfectants.
So it's like humidity supercharges their virus-fighting power.
Exactly.
Wow, now that's what I call teamwork.
It really is.
Okay, so humidity helps our bodies produce these natural disinfectants.
Yes.
And then makes them even more effective.
Exactly.
How does that play out in real life?
Well, it all comes down to timing. If the humidity is too low, below that 40% mark, those droplets evaporate too quickly.
Gotcha.
And the disinfectants don't have enough time to actually neutralize the virus.
So it's like they're working against the clock.
Exactly. They need a little bit of time.
Yeah, so what happens when the humidity is in that sweet spot?
Okay.
Between 40 and 60%.
That's where the magic happens.
Right.
The evaporation slows down,
Okay.
giving those reactive oxygen species enough time to work their magic
Gotcha.
and take out the viruses within the droplets.
So it's all about giving them the time and the right environment to do their job.
Exactly. Setting them up for success.
That's incredible. So by maintaining proper humidity, we're actually empowering our body's natural defenses against viruses.
Precisely.
It's like we're tilting the odds in our favor.
Exactly. It's about creating an environment that supports our health and resilience.
Now, I'm curious about how this all ties into the CDC's recommendations for ventilation.
Right.
They suggest 5 air exchanges per hour. But wouldn't that make it really hard to maintain good humidity levels, especially in winter when we're constantly pumping in that cold, dry air?
It's a valid point,
Yeah.
and it highlights the limitations of focusing only on ventilation
Right.
without considering humidity.
Yeah.
It's like we're creating a double-edged sword, we're bringing in the fresh air,
Yeah.
but also stripping away the moisture that helps protect us.
It seems like a tricky balancing act.
Yeah, it is.
And that brings us to a question that's probably on everyone's mind.
Okay.
What can we actually do to maintain that ideal humidity level, especially when the weather is working against us?
It really is. It's a balancing act.
Yeah.
But the good news is there are things we can do
Okay.
to kind of take control of our indoor humidity.
Right.
The most common thing that people think of is a humidifier.
Right. Those little machines that pump moisture into the air.
Exactly.
I've tried them before, but I haven't had much luck with them, to be honest.
Oh.
Sometimes it feels like they don't do enough, or they make the air feel damp and stuffy.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Humidifiers can be a little tricky,
Yeah.
and it's important to choose the right type and size for your space.
Okay.
You also need to clean them regularly
Right.
to prevent mold or bacteria from growing inside.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's not really a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Right.
Think of it more like fine-tuning an instrument.
Okay.
You need to adjust the settings based on the conditions outside
Okay.
and monitor the humidity levels to find that sweet spot for your home.
So it's like an ongoing process.
Yeah, it's a little bit of trial and error.
Right.
But before you run out and buy a humidifier,
Yeah.
there are other more natural ways to boost humidity that you could try first.
Oh, I'm all ears. Tell me more about these natural humidity boosters.
Well, for starters,
Uh,
good old-fashioned houseplants can make a real difference.
really?
Yeah, they release moisture through a process called transpiration. It's kind of like they're breathing out water vapor.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so having a few plants around the house
Uh-huh.
is not only good for your decor,
Right.
but it's also good for your health.
It's a win-win.
Exactly.
What else could we do?
Something as simple as leaving the bathroom door open
Oh?
after you take a hot shower can help add moisture to the air.
Oh, I love that tip.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
It is. It's a quick and easy way to get a little humidity boost without any fancy equipment.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a mini spa treatment for our homes.
Exactly.
So I've heard about those whole house humidifiers that are built into HVAC systems.
Yeah.
Are those a good option?
They can be.
Okay.
If you're looking for a more integrated and automated solution.
Okay.
They work by adding moisture to the air that's circulated through your entire house.
Right.
But they can be pretty expensive
Yeah.
to install and maintain.
Makes sense.
So it might not be feasible for everyone.
Probably more of an option for homeowners than renters, I guess.
Yeah, most likely.
Right.
But the important thing is that regardless of the method you choose,
Right.
the goal is to create a more balanced and healthier indoor environment.
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of balance, let's circle back to those CDC ventilation recommendations for a moment.
Okay.
5 air exchanges per hour sounds great in theory.
Yeah.
But we've talked about how that can make it hard to maintain good humidity levels,
Especially in winter.
especially in winter.
Right.
It's like we're creating a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
bringing in fresh air, but also stripping away the moisture that helps protect us.
It seems counterintuitive, like we're trying to bring in fresh air to stay healthy,
Yeah.
but we're creating an environment that actually makes us more susceptible to those viruses.
Right, we're undoing the benefits in a way.
Exactly. So the article suggests that maybe we need to rethink our approach to ventilation. Instead of constantly bringing in fresh air, what if we focused more on filtering and recirculating the air we already have?
Okay.
So kind of like what they do on airplanes.
Yeah, although airplanes are kind of the extreme example.
Right, because that air is always so dry and stuffy.
Exactly.
So maybe not the best example.
They rely heavily on recirculation to conserve energy.
Yeah.
But the problem is the air isn't always adequately filtered
Right.
or humidified.
So we need something better, something that can effectively remove those contaminants
Exactly.
while maintaining those optimal humidity levels.
Exactly. It's all about finding that sweet spot
Yeah.
between fresh air and humidity control.
So are there any other things that we can do aside from, getting a whole new ventilation system?
Well, yeah, adjusting your thermostat even a few degrees lower can help to reduce the drying effects of the heating system.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's like those energy-saving tips they always tell us about.
Right.
But in this case, it also helps with humidity control.
It's a win-win.
Exactly.
And here's another thing I've been thinking about. Do the materials in our homes affect the humidity levels?
They actually do.
Really?
Natural materials like wood and wool,
Ah.
they tend to absorb and release moisture more naturally,
Okay.
which helps to create a more balanced environment.
Gotcha.
On the other hand, synthetic materials,
Uh-huh.
they can sometimes trap moisture and contribute to that stuffy, uncomfortable feeling.
So even our furniture choices can play a role.
It's all connected.
Wow, I had no idea.
And while we're talking about materials, your ventilation system itself
Sure.
can impact humidity levels.
Okay.
Dirty filters and leaky ducts can restrict airflow and create those damp areas where mold and mildew can grow.
Oh, that's no good.
So regular maintenance is key
Yeah.
to keeping your system running smoothly and preventing moisture buildup.
So it's like giving your ventilation system a spa day for optimal performance.
Exactly.
I'm realizing that humidity control isn't just about the whole house.
Right.
It's about each individual room, too.
Absolutely.
Like kitchens and bathrooms are usually more humid than bedrooms.
That's a great observation. Different rooms require different strategies.
Yeah.
Kitchens and bathrooms, where we generate a lot of moisture from cooking and showering,
Right.
might need more ventilation
Right.
or the use of exhaust fans.
Makes sense.
In drier areas like bedrooms, you might need a humidifier
Okay.
or incorporate more houseplants.
So it's all about being aware of your surroundings and making those adjustments.
Exactly.
It's like becoming a humidity detective, analyzing each room to find that perfect balance.
That's a great way to put it.
We've covered a lot of ground here,
We have.
from humidifiers and houseplants to ventilation systems and even furniture.
It all matters.
Yeah, it's amazing how many factors are involved.
It really highlights how interconnected our indoor environments are
Yeah.
and how even small things can have a big impact.
Right, so what's the main takeaway here?
I think the biggest takeaway is that humidity matters more than we often realize. It's not just about comfort. It's about creating an environment that supports our health and our resilience.
Right.
By being mindful of humidity levels and taking simple steps to maintain that sweet spot, we can give our bodies and our homes a fighting chance against those viruses.
It's like we're arming ourselves with knowledge
Yeah.
and tools to create a healthier indoor world.
Exactly.
But before we send everyone off on their humidity regulating mission,
Okay.
we have one final thought-provoking question for you to ponder.
Oh.
Okay, so are you ready for that final brain teaser?
I think so. Hit me.
We've talked about the science behind humidity. We've gone over some strategies to create a healthier indoor environment.
Yeah.
But now we want to challenge you
Okay.
to take this knowledge and apply it to your own life.
Right.
So think about this. Knowing what you know now about humidity and its impact on your health, what simple changes could you make in your own home or work environment?
Okay.
Especially when the weather is like throwing those extreme conditions at us.
Like those super dry days in winter when the heat's blasting.
Yes.
Or those sticky, humid days in summer when it just feels so heavy.
Yeah, it's all about balance, right?
Exactly.
So how can you use what we've talked about today
Right.
to create a more balanced and healthier indoor climate for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it could be something as simple as adding a few houseplants or cleaning those air filters.
Yeah.
Maybe being more mindful of how high you crank up the heat. Or even just cracking a window for a few minutes each day, even in winter.
Yeah, I like that.
Just to get a little bit of fresh air in there.
It's about being more intentional.
It is. It's about taking control of your little corner of the world.
And, don't be afraid to experiment.
Right. See what works best for you.
Exactly. Because there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
That's true.
When it comes to humidity.
Right.
It's all about finding what feels right for you, creating a space that supports your well-being.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, even small changes can make a big difference.
Absolutely. So true.
When it comes to our health.
That's a great point to wrap things up on.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot today.
We have.
But hopefully you've learned something new.
I hope so.
About the power of humidity.
Yeah.
And maybe even picked up a few practical tips to try out.
It's been a fascinating deep dive.
It has. So until next time, stay curious, stay healthy.
And keep exploring.
Keep exploring those hidden wonders of the world around us.